Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another LinkedIn Live. And today we have my friend Jenny Davis. I hope I can say a friend. I mean, now we've talked quite a few times and we had always really nice conversations. But without me
Absolutely.
going into random rambling, Jenny, why don't you quickly introduce yourself to the audience and then we'll pick it from there?
Sure. So, a quick skim of who I am and my background. I was a professional athlete initially in judo, right through my youth and junior years into my early 20s. And then through a weird set of circumstances and a longer story, which I'll tell you about another time, I ended up doing a talent transfer across to track cycling. And then I had another 10-year career racing for Team Scotland and Team GB all over the world. And kind of in between the highs and lows, you kind of have ups and downs with the competitions that you're preparing for. So in between those ups and downs, I started a career in change and in making business improvements. And I think through from just after London Olympics through till right up until this morning, that's what I do for work now. So I help business owners, entrepreneurs, and business leaders to solve some of their big problems and make some improvements in their business. And a lot of the principles and the stories that I learned and have taken from sport, I apply in the business today. And that's kind of why we're chatting, isn't it, Mia?
Yes, absolutely. But I do remember that even though some of the things are very similar when it comes to mindset and things like that, and even, measuring KPIs and having processes in place, having mentors, coaches around you, and so on. But there
Mm-hmm.
are also some differences because being an entrepreneur is very open-ended thing. You
Mm-hmm.
are creating your goals and milestones, whether in sports. That's when the next event is, and you don't have much of an influence over that. But I'm not going to go into that. I know you will. I just wanted to do a quick intro. But yeah, I would love to invite you to just walk us into and maybe through some of your stories, how what you do and what you did in the past correlates and can help fellow entrepreneurs and leaders that are watching this LinkedIn Live.
Sure. So I guess it's a tough one because sports lessons applied to sports really, really wide, and there's some fundamental principles that if you're aware of them, you see them all over the place, and then you can start to pull on them and leverage them yourself, whether that's personal or sport and career or in the business. And then there's some of the more practical things that uh, impact athletic performance that will absolutely impact a person's business performance. Everything from the pillows and the mattresses that you sleep on to the fuel that you're putting in your body, to the content that you're reading in the morning before you start your working day. So if you're watching the news and it's really negative and you're watching or reading all about lots of negative things in the media, and then you go into a training session or into the office, you've maybe spent 10, 15, 20 minutes overloaded with negative images and news stories, and then you're trying to fight your way through the day sometimes. So it's a really wide topic. I think there's probably a few principles that are worth mentioning, and then if you want to go deep into a couple of specifics, we can do that.
If I can just quickly jump in, like if I would just say, Jenny, the floor is yours. Like, what are maybe two, three, four things that you think are the most valuable to give to the audience? Of course, we can't go into everything, and it's a very
Yeah.
broad topic. And, we have to leave something so that they have even a bigger incentive to connect with you and research those other topics together with you. But if you could just choose maybe two, three, we have 20-ish minutes to go through that,
Sure.
and just feel free to walk us through them.
Okay. So I think one of the most important things for sports athletes, which people can probably see throughout, if you're aware of it, you can see it in your personal life and certainly in your business. There's something called the compound effect, which is where you're doing things hopefully every single day. So it might be particular habits. So for an athlete, typically, for most professional athletes, they're training multiple times a day, and they don't become world class because they go to the gym once a week. And for a track cyclist, they're on the track once a week, gym once a week, and yoga once a week. They become elite because they do that 10 or 15 times a week, times 50 weeks of the year, times 7 years, which usually covers off multiple Olympic cycles. So there are particular things that will help you with success and whatever it is that you're looking to try and achieve. And for most of them, the key to achieving that success, especially over time, is through this compound effect, through doing these things every single day. So for a business, that might be, let me think. So if a business is looking to market themselves and push their products and services out, and they want to use a social platform like LinkedIn, quite a lot of entrepreneurs and business leaders will just post maybe 2 or 3 times. And then when they realize they don't get the likes or the shares that they want, they stop. And actually, that kind of thing, you achieve it through compound effect, through just consistently doing it and learning from the ones that are more successful or not as successful. So I know you talk about failure a lot, especially in your earlier podcasts and videos. And my view of failure, which comes from sports, is failure is only where you've made a mistake and you have not learned from it, and you repeat the same thing over and over again. So with the compound effect, if you're doing things every single day or every week, and you decide to give up because it's not working and you've only done it for 3 or 4 times, then the compound effect for you, it's not kicked in yet. And I think for business owners and business leaders, the compound effect is really important for building relationships with your staff, building relationships with your customers. It's everywhere, and the only way somebody's going to achieve success is through consistent action all the time. And that's why so many of the elite athletes are so successful, because they are consistent, both in their successes and their failures. And you probably got some stuff, Mia, that you do every single week, that the compound effect is working for you.
Yes,
Your
absolutely.
podcast interviews.
Always saying that the magic is in the little things that you do every single day, and not the big things that you do every now and then. But Jenny, an interesting question here. So of course, if you give up too quickly, you don't even give it a chance. But how do you know when it might be time to move to something different? So I'm sure you you switched from one sport onto another.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how were you measuring or having that decision made to not pursue one career and go into another one?
So for both, because my judo career ended, and then my professional cycling career in terms of racing has ended because I retired a few years ago. For both of those decisions really came from the heart. So for my judo one, I wasn't enjoying it, and I had plateaued, and no matter what I did, I didn't feel like I was getting any gains anymore. And, you know, I'd been in the sport 12, 13, 14 years at that point. So I'd learned a lot, and I knew what worked for me and what didn't. And it just got to the point after probably fighting against it for 12, 18 months that I knew I needed a change. And I didn't plan on switching sports at that point. I made a conscious decision that I would be back. I just didn't know when or in what form. And it was just through some conversations with sports coaches that I had at the time that I decided to move into something different after taking some time off. So I think you got to give it a good chance, and the key is about having some form of measures in place to know whether you're. For me, it was about plateauing and trying lots of different things, and it didn't work. I think a way to shorten that journey is to get feedback through coaches and mentors and people who aren't as emotionally invested in the process or the journey, who can be open and honest with you about whether it's a good investment in terms of time and energy.
Okay. Yes. I mean, absolutely. You have to have that out of the box view from somebody who's not so invested into the whole thing. And that goes the same for our businesses. It's very hard sometimes to step off the hamster wheel when it's your business. So we all need mentors and coaches to surround us to help us in that. Now, maybe a question, you know, in sport, it's completely natural that you have not just one, but probably more coaches and people in your support team helping you.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to entrepreneurship, a whole lot of fellow entrepreneurs think that they just have to figure it out by themselves. Mm-hmm. Why do you think is that?
So I had this, my problem with it in my sporting career was I thought I could do it myself, and I kind of wanted to be the hero. And I wanted to prove that I could do it and do it myself. And actually, I didn't realize how important my network was, and how much of a shortened journey working with coaches and people in your network can help. And it wasn't until, oh goodness, probably my mid-20s, which in a sporting career is quite old, especially when you've been competing for your country since you were 12. So it wasn't until my probably mid to late 20s that I realized that I got opportunities through coaches and mentors and strength and conditioning coaches and specialists and my wider network. I got opportunities from them that I would never, ever have got on my own. The 4 months before Glasgow Commonwealth Games, I was racing in Trinidad and Tobago, racing in an outdoor track, getting treated like a VIP visitor. When we were racing in that country, we were getting transported along the motorway to the track, and the traffic was really bad because it was rush hour, because we raced in the evenings because the temperatures were so hot during the day. And we were treated so much like VIPs that the motorway was 2 lanes, and basically they just split the traffic like an ambulance, and all the cars shifted to either side, and we just bombed it down the middle of the motorway. And then once the bus was through, the traffic behind us just went back to normal. And that whole experience came from one connection. I happened to help them out with a charity event the Christmas before, and that helped me prepare in terms of distraction control and practice some of my tactics 3 or 4 months before the Commonwealth Games. So it's a really difficult one, because you want to be the hero in your own story, and you want to own and be accountable for your business and the business unit that you have. But the reality is, it's actually, your journey can be much shorter and much more fulfilling if you bring people with you. And your coaches aren't just giving to you. When you have success, they are fulfilled through the support that you've given them, because they can see that you're taking action. So it is a tough one. I think my advice for anyone that's struggling with that, and there's a few people that don't want to relinquish control. My advice is, do something really easy. So the very first thing I did before I ran my own business with some help to Delegate, the very first thing I did, I got a cleaner for a couple hours a week. And I really struggled with it, because I didn't want to let it go, because I thought people would judge me for being lazy. But it actually gave me 3 hours back at the weekend that I was able to invest in my business and the leaders that I support. And now I offer much more value and much more focus to that community that I help, but only because I got rid of some of the stuff that wasn't as valuable in terms of me putting my message out into the world and supporting business leaders and entrepreneurs. So start small, and once you've had a few successes and you find the right people to help, it'll be much easier after that.
One thing that all my clients have to go through is the shift in their mindset, where they don't go do, and then if I can't finish everything, I'll try to delegate something, and if I can't delegate, then I'll try to delete something. But we just reverse it. So first, when you look at the task list, what needs to be done, you figure out what can be deleted here. There's always something you can delete.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is, what can I delegate? And just trying to be as creative as possible, and then just what's left, that's what you do. So just shifting. But yeah, most start with the do, and then when they are already drowning, then they delegate, and then at the end something might get deleted.
Yeah,
but they're so afraid to delete.
Those 3 are brilliant. And the thing with all of them, you don't need to delegate the whole task. So I'm just trying to think of an example that I have. So I had to do an article for a friend's newsletter, and it required me to get some images that fitted with the message. And I'm a words person. I'm not the best with visual, and especially in terms of design. So rather than delegating the whole task, I chose to keep the word bit, because that's what I'm good at and that's what I like. And once I'd given the wording to somebody, they sorted out the images for me. So you don't need to delegate the whole task or reduce waste or remove the whole thing. It might just be a chunk of it that you can delegate or remove completely.
Yeah, I agree with you. Often we look at the process from A to B, and we are looking at this overly long process, and thinking that somebody has to go from the whole A to the B, instead of cutting it up in little chunks and then delegating all the different things to maybe different people. And we still do some of the parts, but we eliminate a lot from that process that others can do and do it better than we can, and make it more enjoyable for ourselves. Well, Jenny, I sidetracked you a little bit. You were just, choosing the stories that you want to share with us and so on. And then I jumped in and started asking the questions. So if we go back to my initial question, which was, what are some of the most favorite value bombs that you want to share with the audience? And yeah, we can go maybe into one more, and then we'll slowly go towards the end.
Sure. So a favorite topic that I've shared about in the past at some live events, which is a little bit connected to compound effect, but probably more practical. So I came from the British cycling family, which through up until kind of mid-90s, they were a bit of the laughing stock of the cycling world. The big medals that they had were from performers that were a little bit more outliers, like Chris Boardman and the Flying Scotsman Graham O'Brien. And these people were outliers because it wasn't the structure or the culture that created that. They had it within them, and they had ambition and drive and the creativity and the data and the science and so on to do that themselves. But British cycling went on a journey, and from mid-90s through until Rio Olympics, they exponentially improved their performance all over the shop, not just what you see at the Olympics, but everything that sits behind the scenes. And one of the big principles that they used, which anybody can take into their personal or professional lives nowadays, is the concept of marginal gains, which is about taking a situation or a task and breaking it down into smaller chunks, kind of like what we were talking about earlier, which you can do it with a process, for example, and trying to improve every single little bit of it, even if it's just 1%. And then if you make an improvement, if you make 50 improvements on something, they might be small, but when you compound them all together and add them all up, it can sometimes mean a much bigger win. So one of the things that the British Cycling's performance director did, they have their bikes. I think track bikes are much more simplified bikes. They don't have any brakes, they don't have any gears. But Dave Balesford asked them, the mechanics, to reduce the weight of the bike to the minimum, absolute minimum that they could ride on the track. And I think he asked them to reduce it by a certain percentage, and all the mechanics laughed and said it wasn't possible. And he said, I don't care, you just have got to make it happen. And they stripped the bike down to individual parts. And I mean right down to like the little screws, individual screws, and bolts, and the frame and the wheels and so on. And they aimed to reduce the weight of every single part of that bike without compromising on quality. So they had two metrics, weight and quality, and quality strength. And they reduced the weight in each of the components. And then when they put it all back together again, they met the target that Dave had set for them in terms of the bike weight. So when you look at an athlete's performance, there are literally hundreds of things out there that can impact their performance. British Cycling they have 12 plus marginal gains experts, which are not cyclists. They're not in the cycling industry. They are from all over the place, military, Formula One. They had a sports psychiatrist in their team at one point. They've had swimmers, they share technology with British rowing, and it's all about sharing innovation and taking lessons from one world and being able to apply them in another, which is what I've done. I took sporting principles and applied it into businesses, and I've helped save millions of pounds of cost, increase profit, better customer and colleague experience, and a lot of it's been free. It's just we've taken a process or a situation or a problem, and we've broken it down, and we've tried to improve. If there's a big problem, we'll try and find the root cause and fix it. But for lots of processes, they're in a good place and they just need tweaked here or there to make a difference. So from a sporting into business point of view, there's a whole array of things that can impact performance. Distraction control in the office, or if you're working from home, is massive. And that came from my cycling career. When I was preparing for Glasgow Commonwealth Games, I raced in London in the February, so 5 months before. I raced in events that were endurance, and I absolutely got humped on the track, especially in certain events, in a completely sold out crowd, 15,000 people cheering for the Brits. But I wasn't there to win. I was there to experience what a sellout crowd was going to be like, because I knew we were going to have that at Glasgow Games. Actually, wrong one. That was Glasgow Commonwealth Games racing against Anna Mears, the reigning Olympic champion at the time. And I knew I had to learn how to control the crowd distractions in my head. So once my sporting career had finished, I've taken that and applied it into the business. So that's one thing. If you can learn and figure out what your optimum working conditions are, so when that is in the day, and what conditions do you need? Silence? Do you need some music in the background? Does the music have to have words, or is it no singing? I had a conversation with a managing director earlier this year, and his optimum working conditions is the dental office. No joke. And he found out completely randomly. He went to the dentist. He happened to get there early one check up, and he absolutely blitzed his to-do list and realized that the conditions in the dental office happened to help him be really productive. So now when he's due his appointment, he goes like an hour and a half early and sits in the waiting room and works through his to-do list, and his PA has to empty her diary that day so that she can deal with the output from him, because he's like hammering through his to-do list. So all of that I learned from being on the track and trying to figure out how to block out noise and, families shouting and the heat and things. And I've applied in businesses today. So that's probably one example of a marginal gain. If you can figure out your optimum time and what are the conditions around you, and try and create that a couple of times a day, once in the morning and once in the afternoon. We tested it. I tested it at Standard Life with one of the teams there, and they boosted their productivity throughout the day 12%. In the hour that they had in the morning and the afternoon, 30% productive, much more, higher productivity. And it was all because of distraction control that team put in place. So that's one sporting concept. And there's tons of them out there. As I said earlier, sleep, nutrition, what you're putting into your body, whether it's liquid, whether it's people in your life talking to you, whether it's the media. There's a plethora It's like there's like a buffet that you could go and pick. If you sat down just for 10 minutes and worked out all the things that could impact your performance as a leader, you know, there's literally hundreds of things that you could pick from. And you just try it and put some measures in place and see what happens. So it's called marginal gains.
Okay, perfect. I mean, yes, I can understand. I mean, I've done a whole lot of hacking myself on this particular topic, trying so many different things out and figuring out when my biorhythm is the best, and the mood swings and so on. Now, we do have one question from a gentleman whose name I really don't want to butcher, so I'm not gonna. But the question is, so he says, what I realize is that validating talent and skill during partner recruitment is not enough. The passion has to be there, passion for what the business is all about. But validating passion seem fairly challenging, and he's asking you if you have any thoughts on how to address that challenge in recruitment.
So I'm a big fan of creating a recruitment pathway or a journey that will allow you to assess the things that are important. And if passion is important, then there will be things that you can build into the recruitment process that will allow you to assess that, not through somebody selling themselves in an interview situation, because some people are really good at that, and then when they get in, they're really crap. There's some people that are terrible at interviews but might actually be the best hire you could have ever had, but the recruitment pathway doesn't allow them to shine because of the pressure, or they've maybe not done interviews for a long time. So I think it's worth considering what's important, and if the passion is important for you, what situations or things could you build that would allow that to come through naturally. So there's a really, really good book on recruitment that helps work through that process called Who. That's it, just Who. I can't remember the author off the top of my head, but I'll have a look and post it in the LinkedIn or YouTube comments tomorrow. That's the book that I've used to find and recruit in the best people that I needed, not the ones that perform best in an interview, that performed best in scenarios that I created and allowed me to test for some competencies practically rather than through tests and exams and things. So, for example, one really, really easy thing to do right at the beginning to separate the wheat from the chaff in terms of recruitment is when you ask them to send in their CV, put an instruction in like, and I want you to send it as a Word document in this particular font. And if they don't meet the two criteria, then they've clearly just shown that they can't follow instruction, which generally is pretty important in a job. So you can build like little tiny bits in there that will test practically without you asking them, do you have good attention to detail? And they say, yes, of course I do. So yeah, I'd think about what is it in the job in terms of passion. Why is passion important? It might be sales. I'm potentially guessing sales performance, 90% of that comes down to energy, and passion is really important, and believing in the product. So maybe you ask them to tell you about something that they love, and you can see the passion that comes through. So that's a really good book, though, to take the structure and have a look at. And you know, message me if you want to give me some more of the details, and I can see what we can come up with for you. I hope that helps.
Oh, yeah, Mark, who the A method for hiring by G of Smart and Randy Street.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay,
There's
okay,
2 authors
perfect,
to it. Yeah,
perfect.
that's
Well,
always my
Jenny,
#1 book for recruitment. So
perfect. I'll have a look at it as well. Jenny, so we've came to almost the end of the interview. I still have 2 questions. Question number 1: who should reach out to you, and what's the best way to get in touch with you?
So I guess best way just now, just message me on LinkedIn, connect and message, and um, there's probably 2. So my specialty is continuous improvement programs and helping businesses get their staff involved and really supercharge their CI program quickly through using some of the sporting lessons and principles, some of which we've talked about today. There's loads more other ones. We just don't have time to do that tonight. So yeah, just message me if you're interested. And probably just a shout out, considering pulling together some experts next year for some more detailed sports lessons applied to business. So getting access to some of the experts that British Cycling and Man United and Liverpool use behind the scenes, and seeing if they can share some practical tactics and tips and strategies to help either you or your staff. So if you're interested, I'm kind of testing the waters. If you're interested, let me know, and I'll add you onto the list for when we decide to pull something together for that. But thank you for having me. It's been great sharing, and I hope your
We are
audience.
not done yet.
Oh, we're still got one more to go.
Just one more question. This is something I ask all my guests, and it can be related to what we just talked about. It can be unrelated to that. But what is that last big golden nugget of wisdom that you want to leave the audience with before us to say goodbye?
Before we finish, oh goodness, probably that tidbit that I mentioned earlier, that my definition of failure is the inability to learn from the mistakes that you've made, and if you've made them and learned from it, then it's a success. So in my book, if you're not sure or you're trying something new, just go for it. Doesn't matter if you make a mistake. That's the best way to learn. That was my best race in my cycling career, and I got beat. So in some people's eyes, that was a failure, but in mine, I gave the Olympic champion a damn good run for her money. So just go for it, and it's just about reframing the failure bit. If you learn from your mistakes, it's a win all the time.
Perfect. Well, Jenny, it was absolutely lovely talking to you again. And I'm very thankful for your time and grateful for the value you brought to the interview. I think the audience agrees with that as well. I wish you, a great remainder of the evening. All the best in the coming week, and all the best in your future entrepreneurial journey.
Thank you. I'll be watching closely for your future episodes. So thank you for having me, and I hope everybody got some value from listening in.
Take care, Jenny.
Bye for now.
Okay, so I hope you all enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. I think Jenny really brought some really great stories to the table and showed us how finding that success in life really isn't all about entrepreneurship. You can use all the same strategies or similar strategies in sport, or if you want to write a book or paint a picture. Those are all universal things that you can apply in your life, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're an executive, or you're just an average Joe trying to accomplish something in their personal private life. Now with that, we will do another interview next Monday, so you're all very much invited to join me next Monday, same time, LinkedIn and YouTube. Now we are streaming at the same time, both here on LinkedIn and also on YouTube, so you can go and check the YouTube channel. It's easier to see past interviews. And yeah, that's that. I wish you guys all, well, happy Monday. I don't know why I never say that in the beginning, but yeah, happy Monday, and all the best in the coming week. And see you next Monday. Take care.